What's your first thought when you think about Kenshi? It's probably not how beautiful the wildlife is. And you see, that's where you're wrong. I'm here to change your mind, to change everyone's mind. The plan. I will construct a massive zoo, capturing every kind of wildlife I can get my hands on for display to bring happiness to everyday idiots. There's just a small problem. You see, Kenshi is a lot like Australia. It's full of dangerous wildlife that can and will kill you as soon as they get a chance. Just for reference, here's a pigeon anywhere in the world, and here's an Australian pigeon. Did you know that a whole ass prime minister disappeared in Australia? Just poof. My theory is he got eaten by a pigeon, but the Australian Attorney General's office haven't been answering my voicemails for some reason. So, while the wildlife in Kenshi might be dangerous, I like to think it's also beautiful in like a disgusting Benadryl nightmare type of way. You see, that's the difference between you and me. Where you see danger, I see opportunity. And also danger. Oh god, so much danger. This might be the worst idea I've ever had. I spawned as an Empire citizen. You spawn in Shobatai with 750 cats and knowledge of the 4 cities in the Great Desert. Now, being slow in Kenshi is like being sick in Canada. You're gonna die. So the first thing I always do, no matter what other plans I have, is to train athletics. This can be achieved by running long distances. Just make sure to avoid any dangerous groups of people or animals. I headed straight to Bark for a small boost to my athletics. I didn't see any action on the way there or when I arrived, so I got to mining the iron outside. But just like a game of Monopoly with my family, it didn't take long till the violence broke out. I hadn't even finished mining the first iron ore before 2 sand skimmers, in their infinite genius, ran straight towards the gate guards. The guards immediately killed them, and I was able to harvest their meat and teeth. I was about to finish mining the iron when I spotted more skimmer on human violence in the background, which was more profitable than mining iron, so I headed to the store to empty my inventory. Those 2 skimmers were worth 1100 cats. I also saw that my clothes offered 0 armor protection and generally looked like dog shit, so decided to get rid of them too. I'm sure I would soon find better ones. When I zoomed into the battle, it dawned on me that something was slightly off. I hadn't played Kenshi for months, but this didn't seem like the normal amount of people at a bandit camp. It was at this moment that I remembered that I had selected 2 X nests when I started the game, which meant that twice the amount of animals, bandits, and roaming groups would spawn everywhere. I'm sure I wouldn't come to regret that. As I was greedily browsing the battlefield looking for downed people to rob, a whole outlaw group snuck up behind me. I ran to the city gates and the guards took them all out. Looting everyone, I was up to 4,000 cats. Not bad for the first 18 hours. I considered hiring a mercenary group to speedrun making cash, but decided the safer route would be to hire a person. Getting downed while alone in Kenshi can very easily become a game over. I think most people viewing this video are familiar with Kenshi enemies, but for those of you that aren't, allow me to introduce you to some of them. If you lose a fight to big things, which spawn here, 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 and here, they will eat you alive. If you're downed by cannibals, which spawn here, here, and here, they will obviously also eat you alive. If you lose to fogmen, which spawn here, they will eat you alive. If you're downed in an area with acid rain, which exists here, 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 and here, you'll probably be melted to death. If you lose to blood spiders or skin spiders, which spawn here, 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 and here, they will eat you alive. And what happens if you're downed here?
Memories! All alone with the memories!
I'll let you find that out on your own. That was probably only a small percentage of the locations where you will die after being downed. If you want to be safe, you should avoid this general area. There's safety in numbers, and if someone dies, you can always continue with the rest of the squad. So I went to the bar to hire another person. The first homeless person I talked to was actually an engineer, which wasn't that surprising, but he demanded 6,000 cats. I didn't have that much money yet, so I hired DJ Khaled. He only needed 3,000 cats to buy his mama a house. I made sure to give him a bushy beard to fit in with the tribe aesthetic. I'm not sure why I gave him this posture, but it's always funny to have a 5'11" king in your group. And just like that, I was broke again. Can't afford a mercenary group for one day. I headed straight back to the homeless encampment outside. I know there was more loot that I didn't take when I was attacked and had to tactically retreat. For some reason they didn't mind me looting right next to them, which was great for my bank account. They sure had a lot of shitty swords, but for $100 each, I wasn't complaining. After dumping my loot on the shopkeeper who was just trying to go to sleep, I spent some time running back and forth in the city to get my athletics up slightly. I then headed back to Shobatai to see if I could find someone to hire. I found a hungry hyveless looking for a new master for 2,000 cats. Very convenient since I only had 2,300. His name was Hep. I changed it to Help, given that that would be his most commonly used word very soon. After loitering around the relative safety of the city's outer walls, I ran into a group of city heroes. This was one faction I never really understood. I think they're thugs, but I can never tell. The samurai didn't seem to care for them. They started to talk at me, which is usually not a good thing, but they weren't aggro, so I was a little bit confused. Pretty soon, though, I figured out what was happening. They were being racist to Help, just because he was a disgusting bug man. I couldn't let this go unpunished, but my group was too weak to beat them, so I lured them into the sight of an active Garou massacre that was being committed by sand ninjas. From my point of view, it didn't matter who won this fight, I was getting loot either way, although one ninja was probably worth 5 thugs. I snuck around to loot everything. This was going to be a really good one. 3 Garou and a bunch of thugs filled up all 3 of my gang's inventories. I was going to need backpacks soon. My group was starting to look pretty drippy. I was back to 5,200 cats after dumping all my trash onto the first shopkeeper. I went to the backpack store and got a large and a medium one. I gave the large one to Beastmaster since I wanted to focus on his strength training more than anyone else. I also got a sleeping bag just in case I got down somewhere and needed to heal far from a city. After spending all that, I was down to 82 cats, the brokest I've ever been. I combed the desert for any crumbs of loot, more dead outlaw swordsmen and Garou. Back to 4,500 cats. I could use more crew, so I talked to a guy. He claimed to be good at fighting and only wanted 3k cats. I gave him a beard. Everyone gets a beard, always. His name wasn't very advertiser friendly, so I called him Boo Boo instead. As I was combing the desert and looting any random body I found, a group of outlaw farmers attacked us. I tried to run from them, but Beastmaster had a heavy backpack and so was really slow. They caught up to him easily and beat him on the head repeatedly. As I was deciding who I was going to make carry him, I got attacked again by the same group of bandits. The 2x nests was really biting me in the ass. The desert was teeming with people. I was still way too weak to take on any real fights and just kept running. This guy chased me all the way into Shobatai. What an asshole. Thankfully, the guards quickly deboned him, and I could go back for Beastmaster. Since Help was probably going to be doing labor, I figured he was next in line to increase his strength, so I made him carry Beastmaster and roamed for a little bit. After ending up in Stoat, eager to sell my loot, I made the fatal mistake of trying to enter a store that wasn't open yet, which led to Beastmaster getting knocked out and arrested. I had to do some iron mining to raise enough money to pay off his bounty. For some reason, after paying off his bounty, they didn't deliver him to me, so I thought maybe I needed to retrieve him myself and got DJ Khaled to pick the lock. The guards did not like that, and now DJ Khaled was in prison while Beastmaster was free to go. I basically spent 1,000 cats to trade one of my group for another. It took a little bit more looting, but this time I properly left the jail and had my full group again. After another full day of looting, I had hired a mercenary group and had 11,800 cats to spare. Hiring mercenaries is one of the best ways to make money early to mid-game because they just kill everyone you aggro, and if they lose the fight you can always sell their gear to make your money up. I found a wandering assassin right outside the city gates and wanted his loot, so I aggroed him and let the mercenaries take the fight. However, for some reason the trade caravan right next to us didn't appreciate that and started attacking us and, put us all to sleep by using the power of repeated concussions. The only person standing was Beastmaster. One more hit and he would have been downed. But when I started first aid, the caravan guard respected this as a sign of surrender, apparently, and turned his sword away. What a guy. I'll loot him last. It was at this point that I figured since they had already started attacking me, it was only fair to help myself to some of their loot. After all, why not? Why shouldn't I keep it? And so I snuck into the middle of the sword sharpening competition and took a fully loaded backpack off one of their pack animals. But now I was constantly committing a crime, limping, and there was also a sand skimmer standing right next to me. I did manage to slither away from the action to heal myself, but my sneak skill was non-existent. Also, the sun was directly overhead, so I'm not sure what I was thinking. Either way, the trade caravan probably thought I was retarded or something because they didn't attack me even though they saw me standing there in sneak mode committing a crime against them. It was getting kinda hard to follow what was happening in the fight. There was like 4 parties involved. Skimmers, trade caravan, mercenaries, and wandering assassin. And I'm honestly not sure who was fighting who anymore. But let's just say I ended up with 2 fully loaded Garou backpacks in my inventory. I decided to take a nap as Beastmaster to heal faster. DJ Khaled woke up briefly and was immediately put back to sleep. Not sure by who. Boo Boo also woke up and managed to crawl his crippled ass from underneath a Garou to steal a med kit from a mercenary to heal him. I figured a healthy mercenary increased my chances for loot and prioritized him over Boo Boo. since Boo Boo's fighting abilities amounted to that of a newborn baby. As I was healing the merc, I noticed that Beastmaster was being attacked while sleeping. Apparently the trade caravan finally had enough of his shit and put him to an extended sleep. Not only that, but they continued to beat him up after he was unconscious. DJ Khaled was dying, so I used Boo Boo to crawl his way over there and heal him. I had to steal some more medkits. You can't see him because he's using a Garou carcass for cover. My group was mostly unconscious, but no one was dying, so this actually wasn't bad news. Boo Boo was finally standing upright. So was the skimmer right next to him though. I managed to sneak him off towards Beastmaster, who was currently being used as a training dummy by 3 caravan guards. They took a break from that to apply their skills to Boo Boo's skull. Beastmaster got up. With Help dying, he was the highest priority for healing. He then put Help and Boo Boo in bed. The fight had almost completely died down. With only one crippled mercenary following me around, I put Beastmaster to bed too. I had no medkits, so beds were my best option. The crippled mercenary wasn't looking too hot. I felt bad for him, so I went ahead and looted all his gear. Wouldn't want him carrying around all that extra weight while crippled. But since karma is a bitch, it took all of 3 seconds for the sand skimmer to notice me and put my lights out. I was about to head to the city to buy some medkits when I realized almost all my group had bounties on them now, which would get us arrested if we tried walking into the city. The only person without a bounty was DJ Khaled, and he was out cold. After the fight finally died down, I slept at the homeless camp outside the gates and healed while waiting for my bounties to clear. I then headed to the city to unload my loot. I purchased 2 Garou, naming them Donkey 1 and Donkey 2. I then outfitted them with the stolen Garou backpacks and turned around and sold the loot to the animal merchant. I went from 600 cats to 29,000. This allowed me to buy my first house. I had the choice between a 16k storm house, which was really small, or a longhouse for 19k. I probably could have done with the smaller one, but I like to have more space, so I got the longhouse. This was going to be my safe house until I found a good location for a base. I constructed my first research bench and put down a sleeping bag. I assigned Boo Boo to do research and put him in a separate home squad. This helps when using the select all command, so you don't have to randomly select people in different areas of the map. Speaking of different areas, I decided to send the Beastie Boys all the way north to the distant Hive village. I wanted to see if they had anything cool to buy, but I also wanted to work on everyone's athletics. The only useful things they had were cloth and the polearm blueprint. That would do for now. I took the scenic route to the closest town, looking for more people to hire. I checked the slaver bar, but didn't find any homeless people hanging out. I then went outside, and after inspecting the slaver, then the slaver guard, then the stone mine, then the slave cages, I came to the conclusion that I was in a slaver town. Sometimes my own genius surprises me. I figured this was probably not the best place to be and headed for the nearest exit. I went back to Shobatai. On the way there, I ran into some animal traders. I rammed into them at full speed to see what they were selling. I ended up with the tiniest puppy. His age was 0. I had to have him. I called him Bontardo. Look at him go. Back in Shobatai, I found a hobo looking for a crew. I intimidated him into joining us by using Beastmaster to tower over him. His name was Yusuki, but to be polite, I just call him Yusuck. I made him really tall so he would never be intimidated by anyone ever again. I spent a few days in the desert looting, mining, researching, and prospecting while waiting for enough research and materials to start a small base. On day 8, I found another hobo looking for work. He said he was an engineer, but let's just say we disagreed to agree, and he was now a warrior. Since I had short-term memory loss, I even called him Warrior, just so I wouldn't forget it. And just like that, while randomly prospecting, I stumbled on a really good spot to build a starter base. It had iron, copper, and stone, all fairly close to each other. I was going to need this to gather materials necessary to build my zoo. I was also going to need to manufacture all kinds of things from food to weapons and armor, so I needed to be close to both copper and iron. I needed to mark the location on the map somehow, so I put down a small shack. I was going to need to clear the outlaw nest that lived here though. And the research for iron mining wasn't complete, so in the meantime I went back to Stoat to sell my loot and acquire some materials. On the way there, I found an even better spot and marked that one with another building. After a full day of playing Loot Simulator and beating up the homeless, I had enough materials to start construction. After constructing my first building, I went to loot an outlaw farmer group that had just gotten out of a fight, but by accident I aggroed one of them. This was a really bad mistake, because even though I had 4 people and 3 animals, everyone was really low level and we got beaten thoroughly by the farmers. Luckily, Stoat was really close by, and Boo Boo was just doing research, so I sent him to save the rest of the group. I managed to transport everyone to quote-unquote safety. I built a couple camping beds and a real bed and put everyone to sleep. The next day, a group of bandits attacked me. Probably because I built my house right next to their camp, but that's their fault for living next to highly desirable resources. I managed to take them out with minimal casualties. I saw that Boo Boo was researching stupid things, so I went to check on him and realized that I hadn't upgraded my bench. I upgraded it and was back on the road. A representative from the Traders Guild came by to steal my hard-earned cash, claiming that I was building on their territory. I told him that this was the land of the free, and I had grave robbed and stolen most of this money fair and square. If they wanted it, they'd have to come get it from my cold dead hands. They immediately put my entire crew into crit and almost killed Donkey too. Again, I had to send Boo Boo to save everyone. Now Beastmaster had a bounty on his head too. Sometimes I wish I used my brain more. The operation was off to a rough start, and I had already made some powerful enemies. One thing was becoming clear. I was going to need more beds. I went to check on Yusuk. I had left him to mine copper, and when I checked on his progress, I realized he had mined 40 copper. That's a lot of money, but I think I prefer to have the copper rather than buying it later. I went back to continue construction on my base, and as soon as I had picked a good spot for both my iron and stone mines, I got a visit from another person looking to steal my hard-earned cash. I told them that taxation is theft, and if they could show me where their name was written in the sand, I would pay. They told me that actually they had swords and armor, and I would pay one way or another. Now I had 2 powerful enemies on day 10. Amazing. I realized I was going to need to get to building ahead of plan, so I sold some of the copper I had stored to buy building materials and iron to get the operation kick-started. For some reason, the bar door was possessed. It kept closing and opening, and I was having a hard time getting in. I think one of the NPCs was opening the door and the other one was closing it. Either way, I managed to get enough materials and head back to my base. While I was looking at Yusuk as he was mining away, I saw the group of slaves outside Stoat was increasing. I figured I would set them free in case any of them wanted to join me. Turns out that kind of thing is frowned upon around here, as the guards immediately attacked me. It was about time Yusuk moved to the base with everyone else anyways, especially now since he had a 5,000 cat bounty. Don't release slaves in front of the guards. Got it. An animal trader arrived at my base. I bought the most expensive bull I could afford, hoping to increase my survivability out here. Bulls are actually really good in fights because they ram your enemy, causing them to stagger, which prevents them from attacking. I finally had a fully operational basic outpost. I had a windmill powering everything, a stone mine and processor, and an iron ore drill. So naturally, I was immediately attacked by a group of starving vagrants. A group of manhunters also roamed into my shantytown and spotted a passed out person. They enslaved him. In my infinite wisdom, I decided to attack the random vagrant that was limping through my city, hoping they'd enslave him too. But for some reason, my animals aggroed the slavers as well. This was bad. Very, very bad. I managed to escape with most of my people, but they did enslave Yusuk, which had the 5k bounty. Probably for the best, honestly. Maybe his enslavement will clear up his bounty, like a double negative. I hadn't even finished healing my group when a noble hunter walked into my town. For those of you that haven't played Kenshi before, I would like you to take a wild guess on what the nobles of Kenshi actually hunt. Is it A, Garu, B, sand skimmers, or C, humans? You have 30 seconds to write down your answers. Wrong, it's C, humans. Oh wait, that's what you guessed? Well, good job, everyone gets a gold star. After sighing loudly and walking outside to smoke 20 Marlboro Reds, I was finally ready to resume the game. The noble proceeded to kill Warrior in one shot out of his shoulder-mounted 50 caliber BMG sniper rifle. I'm assuming that's what he was carrying, given the insane damage he was doing. He also almost killed DJ Khaled and put 2 of my animals in a dying state. My only hope was Beastmaster, who no one had spotted working diligently right behind their backs. I managed to sneak around and heal everyone up. There was a group of manhunters strolling by, so I picked up DJ Khaled to prevent them from enslaving him and got to healing everyone else. In the meantime, Yusuk was awake, and after picking the lock on his shackles, I was watching him run for his life when I noticed the Beastie Boys were fighting. It was more outlaw farmers. This time I decided I probably had enough people to fight them. In the middle of the fight, I got a warning that a thug attack was moving towards my outpost. After smashing my computer monitor, I returned to the game. Yusuk was now a free man. I figured his super long legs would help him on his escape. I was wrong. They sent 90% of the city's army to capture him. I just set him to run as far as possible and observed. There was nothing much I could do anyway. They conked him on the head and took him back to jail. Base under attack again. Tax evasion force on their way. The thug attack was still on the way too. Kenshi, what the fuck, man? Like, seriously. I just wanted to build you a nice zoo and bring joy to this miserable wasteland.
Why?
I had a feeling by the end of the day, the only surviving members of my team would be the ones in jail or in the safety of the city walls. I sent all the conscious members of my group further away from my base, hoping to avoid the incoming punishment. And just in time, as soon as I had made it out, the punishers arrived. It was at this point that I paused the game and started sobbing quietly into my pillow. Actually, it wasn't quietly. After spending a few hours driving around my city crying to myself, I had gathered enough fragments of my sanity to return to the game. After pressing resume, for some reason the samurai decided to start a battle with the manhunters that had also arrived, and I hadn't even noticed. I wondered if that was the thug attack. Ah, Kenshi, you're a beautiful monster. Not only did the tax force clear up the thug attack, they also killed a skimmer that was hanging out by my copper mine. They all wanted to get inside my one building, so I closed the door once they were all in. Not sure what that was all about. I sent my number one spy, Bontardo, to scout the situation. They were all just standing in my doorway. I used guerrilla tactics with Bontardo to aggro the manhunters, then drag them to the samurai. I wanted them all dead. I managed to actually down a manhunter with this dog. He was already paying for himself. And just like that, as soon as the attack had started, it ended and I could get back to work. Or so I thought. It turns out that wasn't the thug attack. This was the thug attack. I tried aggroing more manhunters with the dog, but this time the samurai weren't interested. They were, however, interested in the thugs. Listen, man, I don't write the logic behind how alliances work in this game. I just click buttons and things happen. So now the manhunters were fighting the thugs. The thugs were fighting the samurai. And Bontardo was down. I was betting on the samurai to clean up this fight, but you never know. The samurai pretty much eliminated everyone else. The desert was flowing with bodies. It was time to loot. I prioritized the manhunters because if they got up, they were more dangerous. And contrary to real life, a naked manhunter in Kenshi is much less dangerous than a clothed one. But that didn't mean that I didn't loot the thugs and the occasional downed samurai. I wonder what happened to him. The base was coming along nicely. I finally had an iron refinery. I could now make building materials and iron plates. The two most important elements on the table of elements. You would know this if you had paid any attention in the chemistry class. Yusuk was also awake. I decided to try and escape again. The alarm was raised, but this time Longlegs McRunFast wasn't going to get caught. I spotted a group of skimmers feasting on the horizon and legged it to them. Hoping they would aggro on the samurai, it took some maneuvering, but it did work. I easily defeated Vin Diesel and headed back to base. Of course, a wild manhunter appeared. Listen, if you're not constantly under attack in Kenshi, then what even is the point? After using my whole group to beat him up, the rest of his squad joined the fight. There was only one problem for them. This was the same squad that I had looted blind just yesterday, and so now I was fighting a bunch of naked men in the desert. The odds were slightly in my favor, so I took the fight. Surprisingly, I won this one. All it took was fighting completely unarmed people to win. I tried to release their slave, but he loudly started whining, so I immediately turned around and attacked him. Sadly, he dodged my attacks like some kind of crippled sand wizard, so I figured I'd just let him die of natural causes in the desert. After looting everyone that survived that fight, I spotted a manhunter playing dead in the American Democrat position. I figured his life was miserable enough already, so I just let him do whatever it is he was doing. Maybe now I could actually get to putting my people to work. Is that okay, Kenshi RNG? Or am I about to get attacked by 13 different squads? I was finally having a good day. Everyone was working hard and producing materials for the expansion of my base. Of course, a slave raid instantly arrived. I ran for my life. One of them wasn't letting up on the chase, so I stopped to fight him with my entire group. Surprisingly, it was about an even fight. Immediately afterwards, the tax collector was back. This time I was legitimately thinking about paying him off, but then I pondered on what benefit the Empire actually gave me, and that was nothing. See, they're going about this tax thing backwards. If they had taxed me for the property that was in their city, that would make sense, and I might have actually paid that. But I'm out here in the desert fending for myself. I don't see any amenities out here that I would be paying for. We don't have running water. Scratch that. We don't have any water. And so on the principle of it all, I told him to go fuck himself and went back to work. I wanted the largest walls I could research before I started building because upgrading walls is a huge headache in Kenshi. Before I knew it, I could afford a station house. This was great news. I could fit most of my manufacturing and storage in one or maximum two of these buildings. I built a couple station houses just in case. The base was starting to look like a real town. Unfortunately, a skimmer strolled in and removed Help's arm. Now it was down one worker and it needed a mechanical arm. Or not? He didn't seem to mind and went back to work. Oh, I see. He attached the pickaxe instead of his arm. After a few battles, I finally had a fully automated ore drill level 3, a hybrid stone mine level 2, and a level 3 iron refinery. Things were looking good at Donkeyville. I planned out my outer perimeter walls, but the construction would have to wait till part 2.